Light up your fire. If you're a multilingual professional, this is for you. There's a moment in high-stakes conversations, and if you felt it, you know exactly what I mean. There's a moment during an important meeting, for example, when you already know what you're going to say. It's in your mind, and the thought is clear, articulate. But then you start speaking, and hesitation kicks in. You start losing a thread a bit. You over-explain or jump between ideas almost randomly. Basically, you feel like the thread of your thought and your reasoning is slipping away as you speak. And then afterwards, you're left there thinking, why did I do that? And that's not your English. It's something going on at the deeper level of your nervous system. I'm Roxana Fiamma, creator of Lingosomatica, which is a somatic recalibration system for multilingual leaders who navigate the tension between thought and expression when we want to deliver something under pressure in a language that is not your first. You know, I spent years helping multilingual professionals reclaim their voice and presence in critical moments. And I've come to realize that it's not your English that's blocking you. It's more of the distance between what you are inside and what you want to share and what you express. And before I taught this to anyone, I had to close that distance for myself. I've been thinking about what really matters when it comes to voice and leadership, especially for multilingual professionals. And that comes down to this. Communication is probably the most important thing in life, in any sphere of our lives, actually. And if you think of it, we're only perceived as clearly as we can communicate. We may be brilliant at what we do. We may hold years of experience and real depth, a genuine vision, but if our words don't carry that brilliance properly, then people don't see it. And they only hear what our performative language let us through, which doesn't exactly always represent us. But again, it's not your English. That distance, that gap inside between what other people perceive and what you actually mean to say may appear as a flaw. And that's how I felt for sometimes myself. But it's actually unrevealed potential. And communication is what reveals it. Well, it might push you out of your comfort zone a bit, but that's where you'll find your jewel. I think of communication like a bridge. Every time you speak, you are building a bridge from one island to another. And when that bridge is shaky and narrow, your ideas have to squeeze through and you lose confidence. The nuance gets lost because you reach for the right word, you second guess yourself, and as you try to hide your nerves, you begin to perform certainty. And some of what you mean may never makes it across. But when your bridge is solid and steady and truly yours, you don't have to perform. You can let yourself, relax and be yourself. And everything shows your expertise, your curiosity, your conviction, even your humanity. And all of these travel together. And then people begin not only to hear your real message, but they begin to trust you. Think of someone, someone who truly inspires you as a speaker. It's always a good way to start, a good place to start. You know, when someone has that presence, you can feel it, the quality of a person who is there, present in the moment, fully embodying what they're saying and giving their total attention to you, how does that make you feel? I remember one such person in particular who made a big impact on me when I was at university in the 90s. And I still remember him fondly. Professor Norris was his name, and he'd been invited to our faculty as a guest lecturer to introduce the undergraduate to the subject of quantum physics. And at the time, since I wasn't pursuing a degree in science, quantum physics to me was a little intimidating, but I was curious, of course, and I wanted to know more about it. And so this renowned professor came and spoke to us about this subject. And it was the first time that someone introduced me to it. And the way he explained it and the way he related it to us and what we were studying, which was literary theory and linguistic theory, was actually really exciting. It was the way he presented himself as a speaker and his intention behind introducing us to the subject that it really struck me, because he was so down to earth, relaxed, open, really relatable as a human being in spite of his status. And so this approach that he took didn't just make him unforgettable. It was more the way he introduced such a complex subject that left a mark on our young minds. And it planted in me, for sure, a thirst to learn more about it. So that's the energy I'm talking about, that is almost intangible, but it's the thing that people remember the most. Now, if you lead in a language that is not your first or your second, first of all, you're doing something quite extraordinary every single day. Have you ever reminded yourself of that? Because we often take ourselves for granted. And in your everyday life at work, you'll find your way to navigate everything in a second language or a third language. But under pressure, when you get into that room for a pitch or in a panel, a board meeting, an important event, something shifts and the body tightens. Of course, all of us get the nerves, but for multilingual people, there's more at play. There's more layers to this. The brain and the nervous system are working more in the background. They need more energy because depending on how many languages do you speak, two or more, there's two or more sets of vocabulary for a start, and two or more different type of structure of thinking. So it's, even if you're fluent and you're not translating from your language into English, you're still navigating your thoughts, your work, everything, your message, everything that you're talking about in between structure. So there's a lot more to retain in your body and in your background. So obviously something has to give in. So the part of the brain that helps you to be present if you're not regulated on the fly shows it immediately in the nerves and the language that we use. And so your breath shortens, the sentence speeds up, the word that you wanted to say now goes out of reach, and suddenly a whole load of vocabulary disappears in the fog. And what arrives through your lips is a smaller version of your real message. So most people assume this is a language problem, but it's not the case. So even though people they think they need more vocabulary, more practice, more rehearsal, they feel the inadequacy. But that contraction happens before the words. It happens in the body, in the breath, actually. And it's a subtle thing beyond your control when you're under pressure. So learning more language to resolve that particular problem, that particular glitch, is not exactly the best approach. And this distinction matter because leadership doesn't move through effort alone. And although it moves through vision and delegation, it needs connection first, and it leaves a mark through what people feel after they leave a conversation with you. And I think this aspect is not addressed enough in language coaching. So communication is the instrument that carries all of that. Without it, even the greatest vision remains on your island. And let me remind you, you're not speaking into a vacuum. You are speaking to unique individuals, each with their own way of seeing things, hearing, making meaning in life, and each of them with their own frequency. What inspires one collaborator might leave another unmoved. And so I'm sure you can relate to this. I'm not saying anything new, but sometimes when we get lost in the fast pace of meeting deadlines and hitting targets, we forget our humanity and that of other colleagues, of our colleagues. I'm sure you'll agree that we have reached a stage of full speed in the workplace. And so this is not off topic with the language aspect. Closing the gap in our multilingual communication is first of all about slowing down to catch our breath, because that gap is also related to our subconscious, to our nervous system. So we need to learn to relate with ourselves in a new way. And so think of it as art. Instead of focusing on your performance in the heat of the moment, begin to soften, lean to meet others where they are without losing yourself in a second language. That's what real leadership is. And I know it may sound obvious, and I would like you to take this as an opportunity to rethink what it is for you that leadership means. Because have you really thought about it recently? And right in the moment before you are about to enter that room, like properly considered that this is not just a skill to improve, but a relationship to understand, to explore, a relationship before any other with yourself, with your body, a relationship with your voice and your breath. And most of us have never been taught how to use this beautiful instrument to the full, especially in a second language and in rooms that are not built for our voices. So if you want to express that best part of you, of who you are, if you want others to feel your clarity, not just hear your words, if you seek stronger connections when communicating and demonstrating clear leadership and more authentic collaborations, that takes commitment to yourself first, to your voice. And it starts with the breath. So this channel and the work I do through Lingosomatica is not about adding more to what you already carry. It's about removing the layers that have been accumulating over your voice, like the habits, the compensations, the protective patterns that formed throughout times and in rooms that didn't ask you to be yourself. They just asked you to be a faster, smaller version, more like someone else that is not completely you, in order to fit a mold of the successful leader. And you complied because you felt that pressure and you want to excel, of course. Following a standard that doesn't fully respect your real voice and therefore your most significant contribution in the workplace. So if you want to express the best part of who you are, it takes more constant presence. And it starts here. Access to it is by invitation through a free 20-minute Lingosomatica diagnostic, which is a conversation to locate where that pattern lives in you. And at the end of this diagnostic, whether or not we work together afterwards, you'll have gained new insight about yourself as a communicator. And that clarity is yours to keep, which is what really matters to you, isn't it? If this is calling you, the link to contact me is in the description below. If it doesn't, but you still wish to dive deeper into the somatic dynamics of public speaking, subscribe to the channel and follow the rabbit hole with me. This is a sovereign voice, and it begins with yours. I see you next time.